You have a finite amount of time in country, roughly 2 weeks. And you can only cram in so much. But if you're thinking about it 6 months in advance, you might be able to use that time efficiently.
When ZSEIFS kind of kicks you in the pants to make a plan, it's good. You might not complete that actual plan, but you will complete more than if you just said, hey, I think I'll go and figure it out as I go. I think it's really important to have a purpose in advance.
One of the preparations is to come up with a bibliography. So kind of looking at what resources, particularly in my area for religion in Korea, are out there, reading material on that, and then contacting people at universities that study Buddhism or teach Buddhism there, exploring Buddhist temples and kind of the history of Buddhism in Korea.
Right, and that was part of the application process, was trying to make those connections of sort of, I started out I don't think I knew a single folklorist who worked in Korea. And so, the very first thing, and folklorists believe in sort of, friend of a friend. Oh, I heard it from a friend of a friend. And so I kind of started with my national organization since I was at that time the president of the American Folklore Society, and called up our executive director and said, okay, who do we know that does Korea work? And just really kind of started doing a lot of cold calling or emailing and trying to sort of get names, or people who knew other people.
One thing I think I would have done differently is I would have contacted friends that I know in the United States who have connections in South Korea, as opposed to making that bridge directly or through ISA. Because I think that would carry a lot more weight. So I would contact scholars in the United States that have either contacts in Korea, or have given talks in Korea, or who know Korean scholars, and work that way rather than go directly with contacting the scholars directly. Number two, which I think the program did really well, is really get a good background on the target country through reading, looking at newspapers, and that was constantly pressed on us to do, which I think was a great thing, so you aren't going in there cold. And the third, I think, was there was a social component to it. I think we got along well, and I think part of that is, we had chances to interact, and if you can go out to lunch, this is before the program, right? Go out to lunch, meet, at DUC or DSU, I'm sorry, or do other kinds of things, go out to dinner, and spend time with the people. I think that's a great way of creating a bond that can just take off when you're there.
We had more flexibility in time than I even realized from the outset, and so sort of knowing that coming out of it, I think I would have been a little more intentional in what I needed to see. But some of that in dealing with people is you have to work with whatever their schedules are, and sometimes that was a process. And in some cases, I got introduced to people that didn't happen until I was already in Korea. So something came up. It was like, oh, you can go visit one of the oldest, most senior folklorists in the country at Starbucks at this given time.
The one main tip I would have would be, even if you're sure that this sounds great and it would work well with you, to contact both the faculty leader and to contact Addie and talk to them about it. Because again, I wouldn't have known about these other goals, and even if someone is familiar, I wasn't familiar with South Korea, but even if someone is familiar with the country, doesn't mean that they're aware of all of the possibilities that can be accomplished through the ZSEIFS program. But talking with them where they can say, oh, well, what about this and what about that, would be extremely helpful.